There is a major stress test in the Senate tomorrow as two of Donald Trump's unqualified nominees for cabinet posts face procedural votes. First on the agenda is Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence. Then RFK Jr., who Trump nominated to be Health and Human Services Secretary. If both nominees get a simple majority vote, which is expected, they'll have cleared another hurdle on their way to getting confirmed. Then later this week, Trump's choices to lead the Departments of Education and Labor will go before the Senate Help Committee for their confirmation hearings. Joining us now is Senator Angela Alsobrooks of Maryland. She sits on the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. That's HELP, and she joins us now.
Welcome, Senator. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here. Yes, thank you. Good to be here.
Already. So you've had quite an eye-opening few weeks in the United States Senate with these confirmation hearings, and specifically, I do want to focus on the work that you're finding you have to do there to get these nominees to actually lay out what their impact is going to be on our citizens, on the government itself. I want to start with the exchange you had with RFK Jr.,
yes,
which for me was priceless because it exposed so much about what we're in for here. Let's take a quick listen to the senator with RFK Jr.
You said the following, and I quote, "We should not be giving black people the same vaccine schedule that's given to whites because their immune system is better than ours." Can you please explain what you meant?
There's a series of studies, I think most of them by Poland, that show that to particular antigens that blacks have a much stronger reaction. There's differences in reaction to different products by different races.
So I have 17 seconds left. Let me just ask you then. So what different vaccine schedule would you say I should have received? What different vaccine schedule should I have received?
I mean, the Poland article suggests that blacks need fewer antigens.
What does the prospects of our health care look like under this man's leadership?
Yeah, let me just tell you how ridiculous. First of all, the study that he cited from Poland, the author of the study refuted what RFK Jr. said he twisted the data and arrived at a conclusion that was inconsistent with his own study. He refuted it, and he still espoused this very ignorant view that he had that would be dangerous for families who might rely on him. And that's the point here, is having a person who is wholly unqualified, as RFK Jr. is. He was unable to answer even basic questions in that hearing about the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, for example. But families would be required to rely on his advice. And if families listened to him and did not vaccinate their children, and we see vaccination rates, for example, are lower in African-American children, you think about how dangerous it is to have a person who, even after being shown different information, refused to say what was true.
And the threat, as you know, Senator, is not just forthcoming. It is already here. We have seen cuts to NIH funding. How are those cuts playing out in a state like yours?
You think it's horrifying. First of all, we think about the scientists and medical researchers who are involved in very important life-saving research. We're talking about cures to cancer, talking about other research, and all of that research will be jeopardized. And you know who will be harmed? The American people. This will literally cost lives. The cuts that we are seeing to NIH, the cuts that we're seeing to other agencies, people who are responsible for the health care of Americans, for the safety of Americans, who make sure that our water is clean, the individuals, the civil servants and professionals who make sure that we're not poisoned by our foods. All of these things will have a direct impact and hit on the American people. But this research is critical research that will literally cost lives.
Senator, can you just take us inside some of the conversations you and your colleagues are having? Democrats across the board just have been widely criticized since Donald Trump came back into office because of the response. Some people say Democrats have not responded quick enough. Some people don't like the responses that have happened. Others say, okay, great. Now we're seeing a little bit pushback. Lies. He's been some of the loudest critics out here. I'm just wondering, what is the strategy? Because you have the executive branch literally thumbing their nose and giving the proverbial middle finger to Congress, to the Senate, the greatest deliberative body on the planet, supposedly. And what is your recourse for the president ignoring the laws that you all have passed?
So these are this is a very, very serious situation. We held the floor this week. We're using every procedural tool we can in the Senate to make sure that we are blocking and slowing down some of the proceedings. So we held it for 30 hours. You saw it overnight. I participated in that. We're also holding these Republicans in basic procedural votes, making sure that they cross every T and cross every I. And we're holding, making sure that we elongate and slow down the process. That's part of what we're doing. I am personally voting no to all of these upcoming cabinet level nominees because Marylanders have been so severely impacted by the witch hunt that this administration has put forward against these civil servants. Many of my colleagues have taken the same stance, and it is an absolute no on everyone going forward. But you also see the legal system working. There were, as of Friday, at least 37 lawsuits that have been filed. Many of them have been all of them so far have been successful. AFGE, the Association of Federal Government Employees, sued over this ridiculous offer that was given for employees to retire early without any guarantees, essentially. But so the lawsuits have been successful. We see also communications. We are working to make sure that we are communicating more readily and rapidly with the American people because there's so much to challenge. And I have also been demanding answers that we get clarification from this administration regarding many of the orders. Also just really standing up and saying what an impact this will have. And important to note, and I've said this already, but the actions we're seeing will directly harm the American people. It is not the civil servants, and many of them are suffering. It's not just them. It's the people that they serve who are also going to see the rising prices, who will be seeing the reduction in services, the veterans who will need their benefits, the seniors who will go to get their benefits. And we're seeing this administration is directly attacking the American people. Why? To make sure these billionaires are able to benefit, that they will have the tax cuts that they desire, and that we see the billionaires have run amok, have taken over essentially our government.
How do you assess the going forward? I asked Norm Eisen this question from the legal standpoint that he's bringing these lawsuits that are effectively slowing down and stopping, in some cases, at least pausing what the Trump administration is doing. How do you see, as a U.S. Senator, using the power of your office to deal with the fact that institutions like Johns Hopkins University are going to be directly impacted on the healthcare side by what we see coming out of the craziness of this administration, and now even on the education side with the takeover of Department of Education? You have members of the DOJ efficiency team having obtained administrative emails at the Department of Education as Trump is now announcing that the billionaire will soon be examining the agency closely for the purposes of shutting it down. So you're sitting here watching the dismantling of the educational system in this country, the healthcare system of this country, our position on the global stage, because we're going to build a hotel now in Gaza, apparently. That's the goal. How do you put out that clarion call as a member of the Senate to use the authority and power of that position? Because, to be honest, at this table, we've talked about the fact that a lot of the elected leadership in the House and the Senate are just ceding power to the executive. That's why the founders created 3 co-equal branches. How do you step into that new space and deal with these issues like health and education in foreign policy?
You know, I mean, I think, you know, it is, first of all, we have the power of the pulpit, the bully pulpit, to speak out, to let the American people know what is happening. We are also, as I mentioned, I'm voting no to all of these nominees who are coming forward at this point. We are also making sure that we're slowing down things, but we need our colleagues on the other side. They have the majority. That is a reality that has to be spoken.
Right.
They have the majority. And for these cabinet level nominations, it only requires a simple majority. And so the Democrats, we have voted together to block a number of these nominees. It is going to be that we need some people also who have good conscience on the other side, who see how wrong most of this is, to also join us in it. But we won't, this will be a long process. We will also see when it comes to legislation that we will have the opportunity through cloture to block some of what is happening here. But we're going to continue fighting. The thing we will not do is back down. We are at every hand, and our efforts have worked. You saw that much of what the federal freezes, the memo that came out, it was only because the Democrats stood up and said these freezes in Maryland in particular will stop funding for the Chesapeake Bay, will harm firefighters and police officers and Head Start. They shut down portals, this administration, for Medicare. They shut down the portal for Head Start. And when we spoke up, you saw they came back online. So it does work for the Democrats to get out and to speak loudly against what this president and these unelected billionaires are doing. But nobody elected Elon Musk to go through and to rifle through our personal and private information. Nobody elected him to do any of that. And the American people, I believe, are speaking up as well. And we're going to continue to fight all the way through.
They haven't reclassified the rebuilding of the Key Bridge as a DEI project yet, have they? I mean, just, you know, because it's in Baltimore, so.
And you know what? And you know, but you say that jokingly, but let me just say this also. This administration is harming people who voted for them, some people who didn't vote for them, and some people who didn't vote at all. And when we think about these civil servants, these are people who served many presidents, both Democrats and Republican. And to target these people is really unconscionable. It is outrageous, and it's callous. Yeah. It's callous.
Senator Angela Alsobrooks, thank you so much for joining our table.